In this video, we're going to be looking at the very important exploration and understanding of I am. In other words, consciousness, imagination, God. We'll look at all of these and what it means in terms of the teachings and the understanding of I am, and why the words I am are two of the most powerful words in the English language. If you're new here, my name is Fazila Bizior, and this is the Inner Work Mastery channel. So join me as we dive deep into this understanding of the power of awareness. The teachings that we're going to be looking into is applicable for every generation. But there is so much confusion often about these teachings. So I have embarked on creating this series of videos that will help you decode Neville Goddard's books and lectures. Because when you understand these teachings, you can put them into practice effortlessly. When you are the creator and the master of your reality, there is nothing that is out of your reach. I know that many people are actually using their inner creative consciousness to their detriment. There are many who are getting the opposite of what they wish to manifest in their lives. And manifestation is not the only outcome. For me, it's actually a side effect. Why? Because we have the power of imagination and consciousness. When you understand how to apply it, when you understand how to practice this consistently, you become a creator being. So read, understand, and apply. Find the lectures. If you are interested in reading The Power of Awareness, drop me a message in the comments below, and I'll put some links in there so that you can access this particular book. It will put you into a really good space if you are able to read these lectures or books and follow along in my videos. So for today's topic, in chapter 1 and 2 of The Power of Awareness, Neville talks about I am in chapter 1 and consciousness in chapter 2. I have brought both those chapters into today's video. This chapter opens up with the words I am. I mentioned that I am are two of the most powerful words that you can use. Whatever follows after I am is a declaration of God. Now, what does that mean? We're going to delve into that today. In order to understand how consciousness works, besides the techniques and you manifesting your desires, it's important to understand how I am actually plays out in our lives. To truly understand I am, we must look at what impact it has on our lives and how we actually use this amazing creative power. I am is actually quite pivotal and necessary when we are to change the concept of ourselves. The concept of oneself or one's self-concept is actually that body of belief. It's all of the beliefs that you have that make up who you think you are, who you think others think you are, how you view the world, how you view others in the world, how you view consciousness. It all comes from how you have defined yourself. Think about when you introduce yourself to someone. You will reach out and introduce them with your name, but you lead with I am, and then you add in your name. So I am is a declaration of who and what we are. Our consciousness, in terms of I am, this is what Neville says in both these chapters. Consciousness is the most important aspect of our reality. It is how you have defined yourself. When you use the words I am, you are affirming your identity. You are affirming the level at which your consciousness is identified with whatever follows I am. At the starting of this chapter, Neville says, all things, when they are admitted, are made manifest by the light. Or everything that is made manifest is light. In terms of light, the meaning of the word light in this context means consciousness. And this, he says, I am means that consciousness is one. It is expressing itself in many different forms. When you know that there is only one and that there is no division, that consciousness expresses itself in an infinite number of ways, but it is never divided. And it is all one. There is no real separation or gap in consciousness because I am cannot be divided. Stay with me. I'm going to take this a bit deeper. where there is no real separation or gap in consciousness, and I am cannot be divided. It is only that which we conceive of ourselves that makes us think that there is separation and division. For example, consciousness, a man conceives himself to be a rich man. So his concept of himself is that he is rich. And then you have someone else who sees themselves as a poor man, or a beggar, or a thief. All of this is only because that individual's mind is arranged in the image of all they believe and consent as true for themselves. So while someone may be rich and someone else may be poor, we are all playing different parts. So it is God, I am. That spark of the Creator that you hold within you is God. I am is the name of God. When you say I am, you are saying that God is. Now, we are all different parts having different experiences, because that is what we most would love to experience. And I want you to hold on to this particular thought. Even if there is an experience that is showing up as horrible, tragedy, whatever that might be, understand that there is a part of you that is defined according to that. There is a part of you that has consented and accepted that to be true, even if you wanted the opposite. And this is why we're doing this video today, so that we can understand and go into the details of how we harness the inner creative power. Using the words I am, and where it doesn't mean much to you, is not alone. It's not going to create anything in your life alone. However, where the subconscious mind has accepted something and consented for that to be true for them, that is when I am is powerful in terms of creation. Let's use the analogy of a magnet. Neville speaks about a piece of steel. When it is magnetized, it doesn't differ in substance from something that is demagnetized. It is only the arrangements of the molecules that makes a piece of steel magnetized or non-magnetized. So a magnet will produce an invisible magnetic field. And there's an area where the magnetic materials experience a force. So you have a magnet so when particles are arranged at random, like a demagnetized piece of steel, it is in all directions, and therefore the substance is demagnetized. But when all of these particles, when an electric current is passed through a piece of steel, I'm sure you've done this in primary school, where you would have had the experiment of running an electric current through a piece of steel and it becomes magnetized for a short space of time. It is because all of the particles have now been arranged in the same order. Objects are attracted to a magnet that either is a magnet themselves or they are made from magnetic material. When a person whose consciousness and mind is arranged in a particular order, like I am rich, I am healthy, they will attract, when they consent and accept that as true for them, they will attract those events and those experiences and circumstances into their lives, and that becomes their reality. So I am, using the words I am and anything that follows, Neville says is the first cause substance. Why? Because there's the potentiality that exists. Consciousness has infinite possibilities, but it requires that there is an intention. It requires a desire for a particular outcome. So when you say, I am healthy, and you believe it and you've accepted it, using those words, and where it becomes part of your consciousness, it becomes part of your self-concept. You send that signal, that frequency gets sent into the universe, the ether, all that is, the quantum field, whatever it is that you want to believe. Imagination, when you focus solely and believe and accept that state of consciousness, the answer is always yes, whatever you believe, because you have been given the freedom of choice. Now, at this point, many people will think it is free will, and free will is actually freedom of choice. It is not about your freedom to to use your will. It is about your freedom to choose. And this is something we'll talk about in a video later down the line. So I've mentioned this, that I am is the self-definition of God. You are, I am. You are a representation. You are in the image of God. And so whatever you proclaim yourself to be, whomever you believe yourself to be, you are now defining that aspect of the Creator. And when the Creator, when that energy, like the magnetic force that goes out, must bring back its like and kind, it means that you will draw to you events and circumstances to make that particular desire come to life. That particular desire be your reality. And so I am is the foundation upon which everything rests. It's a foundation upon which the reality is created. It's created upon the definition that you put out as you. When you proclaim yourself to be something, God responds with that. Bring the aspect of the Creator is now orchestrating and rearranging reality, rearranging the formless substance to become the physical substance in your life. So consciousness, your mind, your consciousness is the magnet for everything in your life. So we look at this particular teaching. I am that I am. Now, I am is the name of God. When I, as the human, say I am the object, could be something like I am strong, I am healthy, whatever that might be. Whatever I proclaim myself to be the object, I am defining God as that. And when God is defined, and when there is consent, there is acceptance, there is an assumption, the belief, it becomes my self-concept, I can no longer be weak because I proclaim that God is strong. I can no longer be sick because I proclaim that God is healthy. So how are you to use this? So in the teachings in the Bible and how Neville has decoded it, he says, remember this, be still. So still your mind in terms of what you are not, which means push away, ignore, in fact, withdraw your interest from anything that is unlike what you would love to have. So if it is health you would love to have, be still and know that I am God. Because when I proclaim I am healthy, I am that object that I am that being that I would love to be, I know that it is done because I'm using the name of God. And when I use it, I declare it and I create. This is how we create. This is how we harness the power of our imagination, the power of our awareness. And Neville speaks about this. I may forget who I am. This was God going to sleep as man. I may forget where I am. I may even forget what I am, but I cannot forget that I am. At the very center of our consciousness is that feeling of I am. And so that awareness, it remains regardless of whether we have been asleep for a long time. Many people are awakening at this moment of our collective consciousness, even more so than ever before. I talk to many clients who are actually not enjoying the fruits of their creation. And they really want to be able to harness the power of their imagination, harness their inner awareness, harness their creative power. And so we must now look to, where do I create from? It is one thing using the practices and techniques, but up until a point, you're going to find that manifestation alone is okay. And yes, it's great to have the things you'd love to have, but I am that is awakening within is seeking greater expansion, seeking greater experiences. And that experiences is the unfolding of the promise. It's the last series that I've done that I went into detail around the promise. So look for those 4 videos in terms of the law and the promise. And the very last chapter, the very last chapter of the law and the promise talks to these mystical visions, the unfolding of scripture, which is God awakening now within man. What is very, 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 cannot stress this enough, because it is something that even when we get this on the intellectual level, we forget. We will, when we hear information, when we hear knowledge, when we hear, even these teachings, I know that often when I will read a book or a text, I'll have a level of understanding for that time for where my consciousness is. And then I may reflect on it, and my consciousness is now changed. Why? Because there is consciousness that is in everything, from the books you read to the YouTube videos you watch to the TikToks or whatever. There is a consciousness you are engaging with. Now, I reminded one of my clients that when you read lectures or you read the books, particularly when you read these, when you read Neville Goddard or Joseph Murphy, Florence Scovel Shinn, you are interacting with their consciousness in these books. And this is why these books are so powerful. Each time you read the books, your consciousness will have evolved from when you would have read it for the first time to the second time to the third time. And you may think the book is different, but actually what's happened is your level of consciousness that has expanded just from listening or reading something or even having a chat with someone. When we have those aha moments are our consciousness lighting up. The seed gets planted and then it takes root, and then you hear it again and it becomes a bit more clearer. You go from intellectual understanding to feeling it emotionally, to understanding it psychologically, to then truly experiencing it spiritually. As of now, you are to remind yourself, consciousness creates reality, and therefore you must free yourself from believing that there are any external causes. So free yourself from the tyranny of secondary causes. When you think that something outside of you is responsible for what you're experiencing, you are actually perpetrating cruelty, and you are perpetrating oppression against yourself. Why? Because you are now looking for an external cause, and there is only one cause of your reality, and that is your consciousness. By now, most people are going to say, but how could I bring and experience, but how could I want to have tragedy? Well, there's a part of you that had a belief. There's a part of you that had a thought attached to, and you had so there was a part of you that had a thought about an experience, and you may have had a reaction, an emotional reaction. You have feelings about it. They become stronger feelings. And pretty soon, when you keep dwelling on those things, it starts to imprint into your psychology, into your mental patterning, into your behavior, into your subconscious. Whatever you take to bed at night, whatever you sleep with, if you sleep in a particular mood, let's say you were very angry with something that happened that day and you cannot let go of that anger, when you take that to bed and as you drop into the drowsy state, your subconscious is imprinted with the events, with the thinking, with the feeling, with the judgments, and it becomes something. If it's repeated, it becomes a belief, and it becomes part of your psychological and emotional makeup, and you will repeat it. And so what you then start to do is you start to look at everything on the outside of you to blame: the economy, your parents, teachers, your spouse, whatever it is. You are going to struggle because you're trying to fix things on the outside. I am, your consciousness is the one and only cause and reality. There are no external causes. Do not give power to any of the external causes. Do not give power to any of the external narratives. You must become aware that whatever you experience, it came from a space, it came from within. It did not come from without. I also have videos on the teachings, as above, so below, as within, so without. I will put the link in below so that you can understand that your physical world, your 3D world, is actually giving you information about what is going on your inner state. Actually, it's giving you information about the past. Because you, somewhere in your past, you believed something, you were in conflict with something. All you have to do is judge something. And if your judgment is strong, if there's resistance and reaction to something, it will show up in your reality. If you agree and align with something, it shows up in your reality, especially when you use I am as the declaration of who you are and what your self-concept is. To reiterate, you will conceive what you believe yourself to be. You will conceive, give birth to your creation in 3D because of your belief. So, events and experiences you have in life are based on what you believe to be true. Because if you had a different belief, if you'd had a different concept of yourself, your life would be different. Those experiences can only appear because that is how you think of yourself. So now you are to observe, listen to how you speak, observe the thoughts that you have. Drop into the inquiry of, what feeling am I actually having here? If you can, when you can detach from the emotional reaction, and then you look at what is the feeling that I have about this thought or this event, etc., you can start to get a handle on how you are thinking in really automatic or on autopilot. And you can definitely break the mental patterning and the behavioral aspects simply by starting to observe and ask yourself, do I really wish to perpetrate this to myself? Do I really wish to feel tired, sick? Do I want to talk about being sick? Do I want to talk about being sick and tired? Whatever you declare after I am, your subconscious is hearing. When you believe that, there is no filter in terms of your subconscious. So there is no gatekeeper. Whatever you believe and you add after the words I am, when you consent to it, when you accept it, you create that in your reality. Reminds us. And in these chapters, Neville says, magnetism is not generated, it is displayed. When you want to magnetize something to your life, your health, wealth, beauty, whatever this is, these are not created. They are manifested when your mind is arranged in alignment with those particular desires. So what you consent to will be discovered by your uncritical observation to your reactions in life. So look outside in terms of what it is you've created. Look at your reactions and where you live psychologically. When you can understand and when you observe this and you realize the thoughts I'm having are not about health, they are about sickness. The complaints I'm having are not about wealth, they're about lack. So when you become aware of what it is that of where it is that you are living from psychologically, you can start to understand then what to change internally. So where you live psychologically will determine how you live in the outer world. When you speak, I am, the only limitations are going to be the ones that you believe to be true of you. So it is only by the limitations you believe to be true of you that actually believes that I am is limited. Lack is a limitation. Sickness is a limitation. War is a limitation. Prejudice is a limitation. I am is going to be limited to those levels of consciousness because you are the one that is believing it to be true. So talk about creation. The only limitations that can show up, the only limitations that will show up in your life are going to be the ones that you believe to be true. God plays all parts and God is forever expanding. There are only states of consciousness that exist, and we ourselves select the state of consciousness. So a state of consciousness is poverty, abundance, sickness, health, fear, love. And in fact, all of those lower states can easily be done away with because we are the ones that drop into the states and we can easily then move out of them. By now, have you realized that all of your problems have one thing in common. So everywhere that there's a problem, there you are. So in this chapter, Neville says, you are to simply enjoy yourself and remember who you are. You have the name of God, which is I am. Whatever you proclaim thereafter is what you're going to be creating. From now on, remember, whatever your current circumstances are, you created them from a state of consciousness, and you can uncreate those circumstances by simply realizing you are God. Whatever you created, you can uncreate. So create greater possibilities for yourself. The Power of Awareness is a simple but profound book. So each week, I'm going to be bringing through a teaching from each of the chapters so that you can learn how to effectively utilize the power of your awareness. And it starts with becoming aware that you have the name of God. Be still and know that I am God. Watch for my next video where I'm going to be bringing together the application of I am, that I am, as a meditation. And we'll look into the teaching of be still and know that I am God with some examples so that you can drop into that space, but utilize it to move out of unresourceful states and into more resourceful states. If you want to know more about the promise, look up the playlist on the law and the promise. And if you want to drill down into the promise, look at my last 4 videos for more expansion on the understanding of the promise. If you have any questions, put your comments down below. Please remember, like, share, subscribe. I'd love to hear from you. Any feedback, if you want me to elaborate on anything I've spoken about today, I'm more than happy to do that. I look forward to connecting with you in my next video.